Red light, green light, red light, green light, red light, green light, red light, green light, red light.
You know, people call me the boozy one. I do like my drink, but she is still the deadly one, of course. Third time appearing on the show. She is obviously was the Eve tag team champion when she was last on, but now she is the actual champion of the whole promotion itself. Does she? The Pro Wrestling Eve champion, Nightshade. Welcome back.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so glad that I'm able to hold this up right with you guys.
Oh, I feel blessed. I do like my championships. I love a good replica. I like it, and that looks stunning. Great for you. 8x10s must be selling off the shelf, right?
I have a brand new 8x10 that is pretty gorgeous, if I do say, mainly because of this beauty. But I have a brand new 8x10 available. It's actually not an 8x10, it's an A4 entire page size photograph for the same price as an 8x10. So if I were you guys, I would absolutely slide in the DMs, comment on any of my channels and get your hands on that, because not only is it just such an important part of my journey, it really means so much to me to be the current Eve champion.
A4. We're going to have a national
A4.
shortage.
I know. I hope so.
God, pray everyone. Those notes for your university degree are going to be coming out of somebody else's pocket because they're going to be going to Nightshade for her printing. So I'm sorry, you're going to fail your degree. Better luck next time. Go for it again. But you know what, Nightshade, you last appeared on the show pretty much a year ago now, where we were talking about a few things coming up for All In weekend last year. And you know what? Let's talk about reflecting. How have you been since your last appearance on the show?
Yeah, it's been a roller coaster of a year, to be honest. I feel as though so much has happened, personally and professionally. So it's been plenty of ups, also some horrendous downs. But I feel as though so much has happened in that 1 year since we last spoke. I can't believe how much there could be to touch on. You know, I did the AEW weekend. I did Rev Pro's biggest show of the year at the Copper Box, which had about 4,500 fans attending, which I believe is my biggest attendance record that I've performed in front of. So that was incredible. I got busted open, bleeding everywhere for the first time in my career. And not only was that such an incredible weekend, I also did my longest tour to date in Japan. I went over with Marvelous for 3 months. So really, really long time. And then this year, I also made my American debut. I was over in the States in Las Vegas for WrestleMania weekend. So first time wrestling on American soil. So that was also so much fun, along with a couple debuts here and there that I've been really excited about.
They say the journey man, you're the journey woman. You've been everywhere having fun and seeing all the sights. I like to see it. The journey women indeed. Let's definitely get into your team versus the Cutthroat Collective Rev Pro Anniversary last year. Obviously, when you were last on, I was like, oh, War Games match. Could that be something that can happen? And it wasn't technically War Games, but it was quite a hell of a battle in itself. And I think when I was there in person watching it, we got the surprise of Giselle Shaw in there as well, but everyone was on their feet and loving that match. And look, I know we had Zack Sabre Jr. and Hechicero that night, but you know what? I think that match was my favorite. I loved that match. It was amazing. People will say biased because guests were on it like you and Riho and Windsor, but not. It was a fantastic brawl telling the story of you guys against the Cutthroat Collective. And obviously it was documented as well in Rev Pro's anniversary documentary that happened that day with all the documentation. And I remember seeing Ospreay was backstage jumping for joy when you all came back behind the curtain. So let's reflect on that match and the moment afterwards, and it being obviously highlighted in the documentary. What did the match mean to you?
The match meant so much to me. I've always wanted to have a big storyline in Rev Pro. It wasn't my debut with Rev Pro. I had worked with them previously, but it kind of been scattered appearances here and there. I'd never really been able to sink my teeth into Rev Pro. But then when I arrived on the scene, the day the Cutthroat Collective was established, I came in there, we beat up everybody on site. We just unleashed absolute hell and carnage around Rev Pro. And that was something I will never forget, being there day one as the Cutthroat Collective. But of course, people got a little bit cocky, and unfortunately, they turned their backs on myself. And I ended up joining alliances with the team that I hated the most, the good guys. But I actually wouldn't change it for the world, because coming out there and hearing the roar of the audience, especially as, like you say, Giselle Shaw was our final woman to join us in the match, it was a feeling unlike I'd ever felt before. I had that pure adrenaline rush and pure excitement. And the match is still one of my favorite matches to date that I've ever participated in. And the absolute incredible talents that were involved on such a huge stage like Rev Pro Anniversary show at the Copper Box, it really meant everything to me to be involved. And I was so, so pleased of how the match came across. And it's amazing that people are still talking about it now. You know, I also got featured in one or two of the PWI illustrative magazines with that photo of me dripping in blood, my entire face covered from the damage that was done during that match. And even though at the time it was really frightening, it's something that I always look back on fondly and think, wow, we did that. But I do feel as though there is unfinished business with myself and the Cutthroat Collective. I am still pissed off that they decided to turn their back on me, and I do want my vengeance.
Oh, Nightshade, let's less the violence now. You went to war the last time. How more can we go? Texas death, something like that? Are we going crazy here?
Well, I have a feeling all of these little scallywags have forgotten about me, and I want to strike when it's least expected. So watch out.
All right. We'll brace ourselves and prepare ourselves. We'll get the bomb shelter ready, because whenever that's going to drop, I feel like the whole ground's going to be shaking there. I also do have to ask about, Mr. Aerial Assassin Ospreay himself. You've seen that documentary, him jumping backstage and giving you all his blessing and support and saying it was such a fabulous match. For somebody who's such respected by not only the youth in our wrestling scene here in the UK, but fans worldwide, to hear him give you that praise for that match, it's going to be quite a big moment to hear that, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I've always looked up to Will Ospreay. He's just such an incredible talent who really deserves all of the success he has achieved and so much more. And his opinion is so, so, so valued backstage. And the fact that he put so much into our match, spending the time watching it, spending the time helping to assist us and help us with ideas, it really meant the world. And that's something that he didn't have to do. He didn't have to spend that time doing that for us. And it's something that he's such a wonderful person outside of the ring and has so much passion for this business and really wants to see people succeed. So to see his reaction on the documentary when he was watching us out there performing, it was another pinch me moment when that came out.
I absolutely. Some say the aerial assassin. I think he's the aerial hugger, because he's quite a huggable guy. He likes to give all the support. So, I mean, that's a moniker we could give him. I don't think, Swerve Strickland would be like, that's an interesting one. Okay, UK guys, that's what we're like. Fair dues. But we mentioned the Rev Pro documentary, given that behind the scene access, and fans always clamor for that. They want to know the in and outs. They want to know the production level. And we have seen that with the latest release of WWE Unreal, the Netflix show, giving that insight to the backstage productions, how storylines are crafted, how productions led in the gorilla position, timing. And I think that it could be one of these beneficial tools for wrestlers entering the scene, like that need to know knowledge. Like if you want to learn it, you watch this show, gives you the insights, gives you all the promotional stuff. Do you think that as well, Nightshade? Do you think WWE Unreal is going to be the essential package to becoming a professional wrestler with all the insight it gives?
Yeah, it absolutely gives insight like we've never seen before. And I think that's why it's so exciting, because even so many wrestlers didn't know what it's like to perform on such a grand scale like the WWE, with everything so particular and so many procedures in place to create that final product. It gives an incredible insight for all of us wanting to achieve that sort of level and to be on that sort of caliber. But it's such a huge eye-opening series for fans and for people that enjoy wrestling. And I think I was really shocked actually that they did it, because I've always enjoyed kind of that veil from the arena to backstage. I've always quite enjoyed having that kind of privacy and secretiveness of the business. But I think it's something that's really, really, really interesting to watch, and it gives so much insight. It's incredible.
Mm-hmm. No, absolutely. And obviously that series covered the whole road up to WrestleMania 41, Las Vegas, which obviously you made your American debut that weekend. How did that all come about? And obviously the visa process, I've heard, is quite a laboring process to get that obviously approved and everything. How was that for yourself?
Yeah, so my company that I've worked with twice in Japan, Marvelous, they were heading over to America to do, I believe, their first ever Marvelous show in the States. So they have a really great working relationship with the company West Coast Pro over in America. And they've done many collaborations with West Coast. But this, I believe, was their first ever independent Marvelous show in America. So they asked me if I wanted to be a part of that. And of course I did. You know, going over and wrestling at a WrestleMania week has always been such a dream of mine. Heading over to the States in general has always been such a huge goal and dream of mine, because it's so big in America. There's so many incredible wrestling companies and incredible wrestlers. And I find sometimes there is a bit of a divide between the European circuit and the American circuit, because we're so far away. It's so hard and costly to travel. And again, like you say, the visa process is very extensive and long. But thankfully, Marvelous sorted everything out for me, and I went as a Marvelous member, which was even more amazing, being taken there as part of a family already and as part of a company already, because I would have loved to have gone on my own, you know, taking myself out there to complete my own dreams of the weekend. But to actually be taken out with a company that I have so much respect for, that I have built such a great working relationship with, to be out there and to be a Marvelous girl just makes me really proud.
Oh, absolutely right. That passion and the pride that comes from it, because it's hard work paying off, and you get to do those amazing things like a Mania weekend. I would love to know though, how does it compare to the AW All In weekends that have happened and WrestleMania? Obviously, it's an entirely different beast, but is it kind of just the same, that it's just a bunch of wrestling fans having fun, or is there something different to each of the weekends?
Yeah, see, it's hard. I tend to not make comparisons all that often. I like
Mm,
to always just see experiences as totally individual and totally unique, and just embrace everything about it. So I've not really made that much of the comparison before, but I think because AEW Weekend is in the UK, in my hometown where I'm most comfortable and I know everybody, it was a totally different experience for me. I really suffered with jet lag. Oh my gosh, it's probably the most jet lagged I've ever been in my life, which is crazy to say because I've also been super jet lagged before. But I really, really struggled for some reason with the time difference. And it's my third time in Vegas. I've traveled to Las Vegas twice prior for holidays.
mm,
But for some reason, the jet lag really hit me. And I found it quite different turning up to events and not really knowing anybody. Whereas I've been around the UK scene for so long now, and even when I travel to European bookings, there's still friendly, familiar faces that I know and that I love that make me feel comfortable. So it was something that it was a step outside of my comfort zone that I haven't had for quite a long time. Going over there and meeting so many new faces and people that were also just on such running running on empty with so many shows going on, people running here, there, and everywhere. It was hectic, but in the best way possible.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, Vegas is the city of sin, the party place. Everything goes on there 9 times, and it's a fun city, though. Get lost in the atmosphere, but it's a fun ass city. And
So
obviously,
fun.
enjoyable all around. Now, of course, you mentioned Mania weekend, Mania 41, Allegiant Stadium, 2-night show. I know from your Instagram you watched it from a cool pool bar sort of situation.
Yes, so the first night I was in the stadium. I've never attended a WrestleMania live before, and that has always been on my bucket list. Of course, the first wrestling I was introduced to was WWE, and I watched the WrestleManias religiously, and it's of course something I'm so excited and hyped about every single year. So to actually be in the city for once that WrestleMania was taking place in was so incredibly exciting. I also convinced my sister to come with me. So even though it was a work trip, I geared it a lot more on the personal, ticking things off my bucket list, wanting to share that experience with my amazing sister, because we are literally the bestest of best friends. So we attended the Saturday first night of WrestleMania at the Allegiant Stadium together, and we had that amazing atmosphere of the crowd and the stadium, and seeing it with my own eyes, like seeing the WWE ring with my own eyes, and all the lights and the cameras, and it was unlike any experience I've ever had before. I've been to many wrestling shows, WWE shows, pay-per-views, but to actually be there for WrestleMania just felt so incredibly special. And then the second day, I decided that we would chill by the pool, and we actually went to Circa Hotel in Las Vegas. And it's like this really cool pool setup. I went with my sister and Sadie Gibbs, who is also a really, really good friend of mine, Sadie. And we chilled by the pool, and we watched it on these big, huge screens. And we were still making all the wrestling chants, but it was a lot more laid back, a lot more relaxed. When it got too hot, we could go for a swim, even though we had all the intentions, and we were just glued to that screen. It was a really nice way to watch it, in a really enjoyable viewing process. So I'm really glad that it was spread over 2 nights, so I was able to have two totally different experiences of viewing the pay-per-view.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you're really selling to watching wrestling by the poolside. I could do a backstroke while watching a match, like, oh, that was just pretty good. And I get to
Oh,
cool off because heat, I hate it. I hate heat. Heat is
me
absolutely bad.
too. I like to live in the shadows and the darkness for a reason. I don't like to be out there in the blazing sunshine. And we actually booked, you can buy like pool tickets, so you don't really have anywhere to sit, but we actually booked a cabana. So we
Yeah.
had like sofas, and we had our own space designated just for us, so we could relax and chill out and really watch and discuss the matches, because that's something I feel you lack slightly when you're in attendance live.
Mm.
You're not able to kind of hear each other, and you're so consumed by everything that's going on. It was easier to discuss the matches and say, like, wow, that was so cool. I really enjoyed that. That wasn't the direction I thought they were going to go in. And we were able to really feel that experience in a different way.
Absolutely. Good point there. And also, you said you attended night one, and there was some great, amazing entrances that night. Jey Uso with all the flags, CM Punk bringing back This Fire Burns, and then getting his live entrance with Living Color. But my favorite of that night was Tiffany Stratton with all the Barbie castles and the boxes. I mean, that was amazing. Was that your favorite entrance of night one, or do you have a particular favorite entrance of that night?
It was my favorite entrance of night one. I so expected it though, because she is such the living Barbie doll. But it was just the way they did it was so incredible. And I had to go back and watch the entire night one on the TV because it's just so different what the camera angles pick up compared to being there live. And I wasn't the closest in the seats either. So, there were times that I was squinting and actually being slightly further away. There were actually times where I mistook Tiffany for Charlotte and vice versa, which is I haven't had that happen in a match in a long time, I feel. So I went back and I watched it on the cameras, and I think the entrance was even more spectacular with all the different camera angles and the close-ups, and to really see the staging in detail made it even more breathtaking than it was in person.
Oh yeah, and you mentioned that stage as well. That was a fantastic stage. The whole Vegas atmosphere. I love it, just Vegas atmosphere. But like the way it incorporated to WrestleMania was just wow, chef kiss. Somebody cooked here, and it was an absolute gourmet meal. But obviously, they are coming back to Vegas next year. WrestleMania 42 will be back in Allegiant Stadium. Just your thoughts on Vegas being the host of WrestleMania back to back?
I can't believe it. I can't believe we're going back to the same place 2 years in a row. I mean, has that ever happened before?
I think 17 and 18 might have been both in Canada, maybe.
Oh, really? See,
I like to
I
think I know. I like to think I know things, but I am quite hot and dying of the heat, so maybe I'm a bit dehydrated. My memory ain't the best.
I have one of the worst memories in history. It's actually pretty shocking. A lot of my friends joke that I've had too many knocks to the head doing the wrestling. But it really shocked me because I've always wanted to go to New Orleans. So I was really trying to see whether maybe it would be a potential to go out again for WrestleMania. 2 years on the trot is kind of crazy considering I've never even done a Mania weekend before. But I've always wanted to go to New Orleans, and I really want to go, down Bourbon Street and see what the French Quarter has to offer. I absolutely love traveling. I love seeing different parts of the world. So I was really hyped when it was announced that it was New Orleans, and very shocked to see that it was moved back to Vegas. But I think they just absolutely nailed it so much this year in Vegas for WrestleMania 41. And Vegas is just the ideal setup, I feel. They have the huge convention centers. There's no lack of hotels, taxis, transport. I really feel as though it is one of the most ideal places to host such a huge event like WrestleMania. So it doesn't surprise me that they're going straight back there. And I can't even imagine how much better they're going to be able to make it doing the same venue once again. The tweaks and everything they're going to be able to make, I think, it's going to be even more spectacular.
Oh, absolutely. And, all the fans know where all the toilets are, so they're extra prepared, guys. You don't have to get lost. So we've got prep time, and prep time's always good. Like Batman says, prep time is win time, so you always need that. Obviously, before we continue on with your journey since you last appeared on, I watched back your first appearance here, back in all the way in 2023, and I proposed a question to you of which Gothic group would you like to join, the House of Black or the Judgment Day? And you chose the Judgment Day. And they're still here. They're still kicking. The group's still around after all that time. But they've done a great job. You have Dominic's Intercontinental run. You have Finn Balor doing stuff with Mr. Iguana down in AAA. Roxanne and Liv and Raquel with the tag team championships, what they've done to those. Just your thoughts on Judgment Day still going after your first initial wanting to join them all the way back in 2023.
Definitely picked the right group, but still stand by it. I think it's just amazing. I love it when in wrestling you have a long-standing group and faction. I think it's so amazing to build relationships and build characters around one another in wrestling. And sometimes those factions and connections are broken so quickly, and you see turns so quickly that actually I think the fact that the judgment day is still going on, I find it really exciting. I've really, really invested into the faction as a whole. And I think it's still just as fresh and exciting as it was in its early stages.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting because a lot of people were worrying about that fact. When Edge left, they were like, "Oh, this isn't going to be any good now." When Priest and Rhea left, they were like, oh, "That's it, dead. That's it, gone." And I was like, when Liv got injured, oh, hang on, now it's all gone, and they're still going. They're still connecting with the crowd. As I mentioned, they were just in AAA. They've got an amazing element behind them. Like they're kind of like international ambassadors. Going to AAA. I know Finn and JD went over to OTT in Ireland a few weeks ago.
Yes.
Do you think they are kind of like this entry point to wrestling? Like people can see, oh, this is the group, they're bad guys, and they do the job very well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think they absolutely nail everything that they do. And how incredible is it that we're now seeing WWE collaborations with other companies? To see the people that are signed exclusively to WWE going elsewhere and having interactions with other companies and helping to display other companies' talent. I think it's just amazing, and it's something that, watching the product 10 years ago, 15 years ago, I would have never really thought would have happened, especially with this collaboration in NXT with TNA, that crossover. It's just so phenomenal. And I really believe that if companies do work together, we all want the main goal at the end of the day to make wrestling as popular as physically possible, to have as many viewers and as much hype and make as much money as possible. And I think it's just so amazing to see everybody working so seamlessly together.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I mean, I've always voiced it. People say, oh, it needs to be like football. My club's better than your club, and it doesn't, because the more wrestling's connected, that it means that not only us fans get to enjoy the product more, we get to see it on a more regular basis if they have more shows, but you wrestlers as well. You guys are just as important because you can get higher pay, you can get more eyes seen, grow your social media. It is truly important that there is that connectivity. I mean, you agree with me, right? It's just important to see that you guys obviously get paid more, seen more, and heard more.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's just such a fantastic development. And with how much has been done already, it makes me so excited to see what the future holds with company crossovers and talent crossovers. And I think it also gives us independent professional wrestlers, it really relights that fire, and it just shows you what can be achieved. And there really is, I know there's so many wrestlers out there, but at the end of the day, we're all wrestlers and wrestling fans because we love wrestling. It is our pride and joy, and we just have that extreme passion and love for wrestling. And of course, some people prefer different companies than others, and you're always going to have your favorites and your first picks, but that's what makes wrestling interesting. And to be able to have such incredible standard of wrestling within so many companies that are just getting so much bigger and so much more exposure, I think it's really fantastic.
Absolutely. 100% support that, and I'd love to see it as well. Now, obviously, next year, when you were last on, we talked about you being the deadly one and your amazing gear. Your gear that it's great on the 8x10s, and obviously it's added to the Soul Sessions collection. I have one of your gears. It's framed up. I would get it, but it's too heavy in the frame, and I need to save the strength, sadly. But it's an amazing piece. But I would love to know, was there a piece of gear that you would never want to part with due to sentimental or how it looks?
Oh, I find it sad parting with every single piece of gear, even though I am, with each set, I'm trying to get to that next level, and I'm trying to evolve, and I'm trying to make it more special than the last. I have sentimental attachment to every single outfit that I own, and they just hold so many memories for me. But of course, it's such a physical thing that we're doing, and the wear and tear on the outfits is real, and they're only going to hold on for so long. So it makes me really happy that I am able to auction off my pieces of gear when they're just no longer ring fit, or they just wouldn't stand the test of time, unfortunately. And so it makes me really happy that I am able to kind of share those moments with people like yourself, purchasing an outfit that I've actually worn in the ring. It always makes me feel so special. I always appreciate it so much. So thank you.
Oh,
But
pleasure.
I absolutely love my latest costume, which is the all black everything with the leg sleeves.
Ah,
I really love it. I think I'm really happy with how it turned out because I design everything myself and I don't make it myself because I'm nowhere near that talented. Oh gosh, I can't even imagine trying to attempt to make a wrestling gear. But I hand design it and I have such a vision in my mind of what I think and hope it's going to look like. Sometimes it's not what you'd hoped for, and that's always really disappointing. But I just feel as though that outfit in particular is everything that I wanted. And I made quite a few adjustments to my previous set. You know, usually I just wear the bodysuit and I just have the fishnets on my legs. So to make those attached leg sleeves, for me, it was really different and it was a real, even though I feel like it still aligns with Nightshade, it was a bit of a gamble and I wasn't quite sure how it was going to turn out. Also wasn't quite sure how comfortable it would be to wrestle in and to perform in. So I'm really over the moon with that outfit and I love it so much.
it's a good one indeed. And I think with the outfits of wrestling gear in general, you can make it look amazing as you want, but it has to be practical. I remember I spoke to a UK wrestler named Scarlett, and she was wanting to do all these little nits and pieces, little attachments to her gear, but it was all flying off when she would actually wrestle. Is it quite hard as a creative individual when you want to do so much for your gear to represent your character or a sign of growth, but then that element of practicality comes into mind, you have to make it practical?
Yeah, absolutely. That can be one of the hardest parts because you can look at an outfit that looks absolutely visually incredible and looks amazing. You can try it on and think, wow, this is going to be it. But then we're moving around so much. We're getting thrown about, charging around, taking all these bumps, and it has to fit well. It has to sit properly. It has to not move or have things in place in case it was to ever move. It's really hard to get to the bottom of making an outfit perfect. And I think, for example, when I first actually got that gear created, I had the leg sleeves attached with like a Velcro and button clasp. It was like a fixture that I just popped together and snapped on so that I had the bodysuit as one piece and the leg pieces as two separate. But my first match that I wore them, they totally came undone and slid down the entire match. And I knew that I actually needed to get these sewn in. So that is also something that makes it so difficult because I love the visual appearance of that outfit, but getting into it, oh my gosh, I cannot explain to you getting into. Imagine it's just one entire piece, the legs, the bodysuit, the arms, the lacing. So getting into it, especially on a hot day, well, it takes an eternity to get into it. And then once I'm in it, I cannot go to the bathroom because if I go to the bathroom, I may as well have not gotten in it in the first place. So it's not that practical as getting it on and off. But these are sacrifices we do have to make, unfortunately, to have the outfits and the gear that we've always wanted.
Yeah, absolutely. You got to sacrifice for your passion, and wee bit of no peeing for 2 hours. It's a bit of a sacrifice. You gotta do it for the art. Um, People take inspirations from anywhere, and somebody who I remember speaking with that you may not like me bring them up, obviously Alex Windsor. I remember when I had her on and talked about she was like taking inspiration from maybe Bride of Chucky with Tiffany as a gear set, with like how her leather jacket with a bright mixture looks. Have you ever thought of something from media? I've always thought, I don't know if you've ever seen the movie Corpse Bride, the Tim Burton movie with Emily in it.
Yes.
Like that kind of bridal attire would be great for you, somebody with yourself as the deadly one. The deadly bride would be interesting. But has there been any person from media that you thought of and thought that'd be a good inspiration?
Do you know what? I haven't really. I think since I started, I just wanted to alter the costumes in ways that I thought suited me more. So, thinking of ways that what colours Nightshade would wear and what I really want to kind of translate in the ring and the sort of visuals that I wanted to create for myself. So I think I've always tried to be more of a, I've always tried to see it as more of an individual thing. And I've always really tried to gear it towards how I wanted Nightshade to look, as opposed to necessarily taking influences from other things. And then each set I've had, when I've created my next one, I've thought, what do I really love about the previous? And what do I want to incorporate into the next one? Or what color scheme do I think would work really well? Or do I want to represent a certain company or a certain country? Or, is there some monumental thing that I would like to try and incorporate? It's like when I actually won my Pro Wrestling Youth Championship, here it is once again. I wore a old gear that I actually got made for my second tour of Japan with Tokyo Joshi Pro Wrestling. I went out there as part of the uprising with myself and Rio O'Reilly, and we got brand new Japanese matching olive green sets of gear. And I wanted to get that totally revamped for my Eve Championship match, because this match has always meant so much to me. I was literally in the audience as a 13-year-old teenager watching the first ever Eve event. I was in the audience when the first ever Eve champion was crowned with this exact same championship that I'm sat here with. And I wanted to totally embody Eve in my gear. So I got that old outfit that was much more of a tag outfit. I didn't necessarily feel it embodied Nightshade that well, but we were in such a rush because our tour, we got asked last minute and then trying to find the gear maker. It was all a bit of a rush. So I never feel as though it perfectly embodied myself as Nightshade, but I totally revamped it for the championship match. And it's green and it's gold and it's bedazzled and shiny and sparkly, just like the belt. And that was something that was my first time doing a themed kind of outfit for a company.
Wow. I mean, the story with that, amazing. And you got to love to hear it. But let's talk about, I think, one of your favorite countries, places to go. Let's talk about Japan. Let's talk about it. You being over there, and one that when I saw it appear online that you were in this, I was like, holy shit, that's amazing. I want to talk about you vying for the inaugural GHC women's title at Noah, right? Noah, company started by Mitsuharu Misawa, the exodus from All Japan, featuring the greats such as Kenta Kobashi, Jun Akiyama, the Great Muta, a legendary company in Japanese history. I mean, the names I mentioned alone, and you getting to be a part of it for their first ever women's title. How did that come about, first of all, and what did it mean to you to be a part of Noah?
It meant so much to me, and I was really taken aback and shocked when I heard that they wanted me to be part of that match. It was so incredibly exciting because Noah has been a company that I've watched for so many years, such incredible talent. It's one of my favorite Japanese companies. And that's saying a lot because I hold the Japanese wrestling companies so, so high on my estimates. So the fact that I actually appeared live on Monday Magic at Noah for the crowning of the first ever Noah Women's Champion, I don't think that will be a moment I will ever, ever get over. But unfortunately, I was actually injured going into that match. So it wasn't my performance I would have liked it to have been. And I was so scared I wasn't even going to be able to appear and make that appearance. So I knew that my marvelous connections had told me that they wanted to bring me in for the Noah date and that been asked to perform in that Noah Rumble. And I, of course, was so excited. I had so many ideas. I just couldn't wait. I had my brand new outfit to debut, and I was just over the moon. And then the weekend, 2 weekends before, or perhaps the weekend before, actually, it was either the weekend before or 2 weekends before that, I had that clash, that big match with Lucy Sky at Pro Wrestling Eve, where we brawled around the building and I injured my knee. And at the time, I thought it wasn't too serious, not too bad. And luckily, it wasn't serious enough to take a huge amount of time off. I didn't need surgery or anything like that, which I'm so thankful for, because that would have stopped all of my plans for my Japanese tour. But going into that Noah match, I was really scared and I was really frightened, and I struggled to walk on my knee, let alone being able to wrestle. And of course, that anxiety that it filled me with, because at the end of the day, we are still normal people with normal emotions. And it was such a huge moment for me. I wanted to be proud of my performance, and I wanted my body to be at 100%. I wanted to be able to perform to my best. And even when I perform to my absolute best, I am in the best shape physically, I still think sometimes, is it good enough? Have I done a good enough job? Compared to X, Y, and Z, is my wrestling up to scratch for these opportunities? So, yeah, I went in and I had my knee absolutely wrapped up. I'd only just landed that day into Japan. So I'd wrestled in Barcelona for RCW on, I believe, the Saturday, flew back to England, got my cases for a 3-month tour, the longest I'd ever been away from home in one stint. Picked up my cases, went back to the airport, boarded my flight to Japan, which wasn't direct because of the issues in Russia. You're not allowed to fly over Russian airspace for the most part. So it was a connecting flight. Landed in Japan the day of the Noah show with my knee absolutely swollen from all that air pressure, all of that. I think it was something like a 20-hour travel day. And I just felt like I'd been through the absolute wars. And because I was so stressed and sad about my injury, I was trying to rehab, I was trying to make it better. I had also got run down and I was feeling slightly feverish and slightly full of a cold. And I just thought, oh my gosh, like the odds are against me here. Like, maybe I'm not supposed to do this. But then I snapped out of it and I put my wall paint on. I got ready. I put my gear on. I did my makeup and I was like, there is no chance in hell I'm going to miss my debut for Noah. And I'm so glad that I just didn't make a fuss and I just went out there and I did it, and I did the best that I could. And I don't actually think you can necessarily tell when you watch it back. I really powered on through that pain. So I'm so glad that I did, because that was my only opportunity that I had to wrestle for Noah. So if I hadn't have done, I would have just regretted that forever, I think. So I feel extremely lucky that it wasn't a serious injury. But of course, it's not how I would have ideally wanted that to go. Even just landing in the country that day after 20 hours of traveling and a 9-hour time difference, when the day before you were in another foreign country, isn't the most ideal circumstances. So it was a wild ride.
My God. I would have never known you were injured seeing it back. And now it's like, wow, my eyes are open to this whole other different angle and mindset you must have been going through for that. I think as well, it speaks to the volume of that. I don't think some fans understand how much you guys sacrifice with traveling, going to places, paying for things, and all of this. Traveling must be a real hellish thing on your body and mind as well. Have you ever adopted any, fast tricks or any tips going through airports and all this traveling?
Yeah, I think that's the thing. I think, we're so spoiled with the level of wrestling. I think sometimes we forget that actually they are just people just like me and you. And taking those bumps does so much to your body. You know, it is not comfortable whatsoever to be a professional wrestler. You know, we actually put our bodies through hell doing this, and just to chase this dream and to create magic in the ring and become a person we've always wanted to be out there in front of the cameras and the fans. And I think sometimes we are quick, and fans and people can be quick to forget that we are just human at the end of the day. And you know, even just the intensive training that we go through to try and perfect our craft is constant and grueling. But when it comes to travel hacks, I don't know that I have adopted any. I am through the airport like an absolute whiz. Like when I was younger, I'd be so excited to go away because I'd only ever travel for holidays, that I would always get to the airport so early, and I'd save money so that I could go and have a little lunch, and I could sit there for hours watching the gate. I'd really romanticize the whole traveling process, and I'd be like, oh, it's so exciting, it's so much fun. I even love being in the airport, and I love being on the plane. But I think now I'm so regimented. I'm like, get straight through that security. I know everything that you are and are not allowed in your carry-on. So I just try and get straight through as quickly as possible. Thankfully, I've never missed a flight to this day, which I don't want to jinx, but never ever missed a flight, thank goodness. But I think my biggest travel hack or tip that I try to do is I try to sleep as much as possible on the planes, because there's such you're awake, especially I find the European trips when they're so short and you really are just flying in for the show and flying straight out. I try to always sleep on the plane, no matter what sort of time it is. That sleep, those hours of sleep are so valuable to me. I have like an eye mask, I have headphones. I usually will wear like a zip up hoodie that's oversized, and I'll unzip it and I'll have it as a little blanket. So I've got my eye mask on, and I'll use my hoodie as a little blanket because it makes me sleep better. Because I find it difficult not to sleep with a little cuddling a blanket, even in heat. I still have to like hold a corner of the blanket so that I'm able to sleep well. So I've got my airport set up, and I also would prefer the window seat. Always the window, so I can just slump in the corner and try and sleep. And I know that nobody's going to interrupt me to go to the bathroom or the toilet or to go for a walk around. But I do try and adjust my time zone whilst I'm on the plane. So for Japan example, knowing that I'm going to travel for 20 hours, I think, okay, when is it nighttime in Japan? And I have to try and force myself to be asleep during the nighttime, because hopefully when I arrive, it'll then be slightly easier to adjust. I don't know if it works or not, but
Hey, good tips all around. Put it in the travel guide. It could be a good one for the little cue card at the back of the plane. You know, you say, there we go. Good one to have there. You know, Japanese and women's wrestling has such a great history. You know, there was that great Netflix show, The Queen of Evil, or I believe it was, where
Queen of
Dump Massimo,
Villains.
that's the one, Dump
Yeah.
Massimo talking that story. I loved watching that and getting that informative knowledge of this past part of women's wrestling in Japan. And obviously, one of those big women's stars, especially for Japan, is Aja Kong. And learning about her history through YouTube documentaries, I really loved. Obviously, you were against her in a tag team match as well in your American debut, I believe it was.
I was.
Right, I gotta know. You've done a lot of historic things for Japan. The inaugural Known Women's title, that big tour you've done, but to go against a legend like her, right? I need to know. Biggest bucket list thing for you, just to go against a legend.
I don't know if I can say biggest, but it was absolute bucket list territory. Like when that match got announced, I was just in disbelief. I could not believe it. And it was so special because that was actually my first show that I did in America. So my first show, there I was against the legend that is Aja Kong, who I've always wanted to face. I have met her several times whilst being in Japan, being on the same shows and seeing her here and there. But I've never wrestled her, and I've always been so shy. I think because I have so much respect for her, and she's such a legend. I'm literally like, oh my gosh, she can't be speaking to like little me. Like I get so shy and nervous around her. So that was absolute bucket list, like such an incredible goal of mine. I actually still can't believe that happened. I feel as I need to reshare that on the socials because it can actually be viewed now via their streaming service. So I'd love for people to check out that match because it was so much fun. I couldn't believe I wrestled Aja Kong, and she almost legit knocked me out. Don't want to give any spoilers for the match if you are going to purchase and watch it, which I really hope you guys do. But one of the hardest hits I've also ever received in a wrestling ring. Holy moly, she is not someone to mess with, even though I didn't.
Oh, good.
It was a wonderful, wonderful experience. It was really topped. The cherry on top was my sister being in the audience, in attendance. I mean, she's not so into the indie circuit of wrestling. She doesn't follow wrestling as closely as she used to. But she knew just how much that meant to me. And I don't often have family or friends in the audience. You know, I kind of just do my own thing, and I don't really want to bother them and ask them to attend. So to actually have my sister sat there in the audience for my American debut against the legend that is Aja Kong, it was an incredible moment that I will remember for the rest of my life.
You're a history maker, Nightshade. You're a big part of the history around, and I love to see it. Because I know as well, somebody who's got quite a history with Aja is obviously Seiko Matsuura, obviously, which Ichiban Wrestling, you were a part of her final UK show as well, if I'm correct, wrestling against LA Taylor.
Yes, yeah. That was Mako's final wrestling event in the UK. So I was I really desperately wanted to be on a show during that lead up to her retirement. I've idolized Mako Satomura for such a long time, and I've also followed her company in Japan, Sendai Girls, for years. It's always been a bucket list item to wrestle for Sendai Girls, but I find for the most part, when you go to Japan, you belong to the company that takes you, and it's very hard to do intercompany switches. It just my personal experience. So I also, whilst I was out there, I believe it was January this year, I actually made my Sendai Girls debut, and I worked for Meiko Satomura's company. So then to see her a month or two later in England and to be on that Ichiban show, which was just incredible, by the way, the setup, the staging, the sound, the lights, the atmosphere was phenomenal. I was so happy to be part of their first ever show, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
So, and for it to be Meiko Satomura's final appearance in England, again, I asked to take a selfie with her, and I'm so happy I did because usually I get too shy. I get so shy to ask people for pictures, which I need to snap out of because I'd love to print them up and have them on my wall and have them forever. But I just get a bit too shy and awkward. So, but I did get that photo, and I'm so glad that I did. And it is, again, a memory that I hope I never, ever forget.
Just hire your sister as your personal camera person. Just have her go around and take all the pictures.
Oh my gosh, I should she can have a lanyard, like pretend she's in media and be like Satomura-san, photo media. And I'm like, yes, sister. Yes.
Just the lanyard is a picture of your face. It's like personal pictures of the Nightshade. It's like, okay. All right.
No. We're gonna have to act like it's way more official than that. We'll have to act like it's for a magazine or something, you know.
Ooh.
Really get those angles.
It's one of the old defunct ones that doesn't exist anymore. It's like they're still around.
Yeah, like, oh, it never made it to print. The story got cut.
Oh, sorry, we ran out of paper because Nightshade took all the A4s for her promos. Sorry, we couldn't do it. Before we get into the meats and potatoes of this discussion here, also, which will be Eve, I want to talk about one picture because I had Hunter Lawrence on, and we were talking, and there was a particular picture about it was all of you with a drink looking sad. Why are you sad with alcohol?
I don't know what that is about. I cannot offer any clarity here. They just all had a can of beers backstage. Like, oh, Nightshade, do you want a can? I was like, yeah, come on, I finished. I've done the hard work. I finished my match. I'll join you for a can of beer, even though beer isn't even my preference, my alcohol preference. And then they gathered the cameraman and said we must take a picture for the Sad Boys Beer Club. And I was like, okay, I'll look sad. I don't know. I'm not in on the joke, but I was that day. So yeah, honestly, it remains a mystery to me. But I was happy inside, even though I looked very sad.
So I'd say I was quite worried seeing people sad with alcohol as a Scotsman. It's like something's wrong here. Something either Hibs have lost again, or we've lost the tenant privileges. Tenants have been taken over by somebody from, I don't know, Spain or France, and we're like, yeah, we're done. We've lost our national beer. Oh, the dark
No, I
times.
was actually very happy. I was very happy.
Good. I'm glad to hear that. Worrying has been diminished. I'm happy now. Right. Let's get into Pro Wrestling Eve. Obviously, you would dethrone Nina Samuels to become the Pro Wrestling Eve Women's Champion. You talked about being there at the first show as a young teenager to now represent the company. Two questions, obviously, with this big moment. First, meaning to win the champion and hearing you announced as the champion with that belt. And second, to know that a lot of women in the UK see Eve as their big destination, the bucket list, the dream and the goal. And now you represent that company as the champion. How does it feel to be the person that a lot of young girls in the UK are now looking up to as their champion?
Oh my gosh, don't say that. That's crazy. I actually cannot believe it. I have worked so hard for this, and I've always, always, always wanted to wrestle for Eve before I even started wrestling for them. As I said, I was in attendance of their first ever show. Eve has always been a company that I've looked up to because they've always fought for women's rights and to showcase the absolute best women's wrestling that they can, and just everything that Eve embodies. I'm so behind and I've always been there for. And I honestly could go on for hours about how much this means to me. And I don't think anybody will actually truly understand how much being the Eve champion means to me. And I was just so I of course always wanted it as a goal. It was always huge up there in my bucket list. Like literally, it probably had to be like top 5 things that I wanted to achieve in wrestling, like in my entire wrestling career, which is crazy because I have so many dreams and I have so many goals in the wrestling industry. And the fact that like I actually became the Eve Women's Champion and I defeated Nina Samuels, who had held the championship for a ridiculous amount of time. Our first ever Eve match against each other is just insane. And I debuted for Eve in, I believe, 2018. And ever since my debut, just being on every show of theirs is a dream come true to me. And I just enjoyed being there so much. It's an incredible locker room, incredible morale, incredible shows of incredible quality. And of course, I always, always dreamt of having those main event matches and being in the main title chase. But I was just so happy to be there, but just always give it my all and give it my best. And I feel like Eve, because it feels so much like home, they have started calling me the child of Eve because I was literally a child when I sat there and I looked up to the ring and I saw those incredible wrestlers inside of the ring, and I wanted to base my entire life off of what I had seen. So it really is home to me, and I really do feel like the child of Eve. So to have that championship match, it just came so quickly and almost out of nowhere. Like, I'd been a main fixture on the Eve roster since pretty much since my debut in 2018. And that is 7 years ago now. So you would think with natural progression that I would be here, but it's just such an incredible moment that means so, so, so much to me. I'm actually wearing the Eve t-shirt right
Yes.
now. Yay. And this is of another like totally full circle moment is the fact that I won the Eve Championship on the 15th anniversary of Eve. So there I was sat in the audience on the first ever show, and I won it and became champion on the 15th year anniversary. So I'm in there, 15-year top. It literally says like special 15-year anniversary. So I felt like it was only fitting to wear that today. But yeah, honestly, I could go on and on for hours, so I'm not going to bore you guys. But I don't think words can even describe how much it means to me. And when you look at that long list of people that have held this belt, the fact that my name has even been added amongst such legends and so many women, in fact, every single woman that I look up to, is just like unbelievable, really.
As I've said, Nightshade, history maker. You're part of history now in Japan and UK, and take pride in that. Take absolute pride in that. Now, obviously, you've got a big thing coming up this weekend. It's Forbidden Door weekend, but on the Eve side, Eve 138. I'm definitely not looking at my phone. I definitely remembered that. Eve versus the world. And you are obviously defending the Eve Championship against the second ever AEW Women's Champion, Nyla Rose. Now, Nyla, obviously, to have that accolade of the second ever AEW Women's Champion that's gone on to be the held with the likes of Thunder Rosa, Tony Storm, Saraya, Hikaru Shida. I mean, that's somebody that you're going to have to really test yourself against. And do you feel prepared and ready to go against somebody with the accolades of Nyla Rose?
It is really daunting. Nyla is someone I've always wanted to wrestle, someone I've looked up to, and is such an incredible talent. She's also part of the Marvelous family and has been out in Japan wrestling with Marvelous, so has a lot of that kind of Japan trade knowledge like I do. And it's going to be a huge, huge challenge. Potentially my biggest challenge to date with something so important on the line. And to be truthful with you, I don't feel as prepared as I could be. I'm feeling slightly under the weather, but shh, don't tell Nyla.
Mm.
I'm feeling, yeah, slightly run down, slightly under the weather. I'm not feeling the best version of myself at the moment. I've also gone through a really difficult period in my life recently, which has unfortunately crept into every single aspect of my life and, you know, tainted certain experiences and made me not feel like the best version of myself. But I'm going to give it absolutely everything that I've got on Saturday because I've just gone on about how much this championship means to me, and I cannot and will not let Nyla Rose take this championship from me on my second defense. This is only my second defense of the Eve championship, and I cannot allow her to take it from me. So I will be doing my absolute best out there. I will give everything and more, even though I'm not feeling 100%. I will leave it all out there to make sure I retain this. And do you know what? If I don't, what an incredible competitor to lose it to.
Well, you're a fighter, Nightshade, and I'm sure you'll kick in high gear and send her back to AEW, because I'm sure if she does win that, she's going to beat the ever-loving shit out of Serpentico. And you can't do that to the boy. He doesn't deserve that. She already abused him enough on Twitter. Let the Snake Boy do his thing, all right? He can't take any more abuse, all right? But what obviously is great about the show as well, there's so many AEW female talent coming along. Julia Hart, Sky Blue, Queen Aminata. There's so many. Obviously, Chris Statlander holds the international title for Eve as well. What does it mean to you to see, obviously, the second biggest American company's girls that are on this big stage, that have wrestled in stadiums like the likes of Wembley, Texas, and obviously Wrestle Dynasty in Japan as well, to come to Eve and give that showcase to the company?
It's incredible to have so much more eyes coming to Eve. You know, Eve is already huge. And in my mind, I truly believe Eve already has some of the best talent in the world. You know, look at that 15-year history of the likes of people that wrestled for Eve on a regular basis. A lot of people are now huge stars. And I've always believed that Eve is just such an it showcases such incredible talent and such diversity as well throughout the roster. So even though some people don't have as much of a following or haven't had that big break, I really believe that Eve already showcases some of the best wrestling in the world. So to have all of these fantastic talents from AEW coming over and collaborating with Eve, it just gives Eve the opportunity to have an even larger platform than they already do. And I'm really hoping that so many more people are going to become diehard fans of Pro Wrestling Eve and see that magic that we create every single month, every first Friday of the month. And if you haven't checked out Pro Wrestling Eve, you really, and you're a lover of women's wrestling and just wrestling in general, you really must check out Pro Wrestling Eve on YouTube. They have a YouTube channel, they live stream the shows. So it's just a phenomenal place to be. And the fact that we are at this stage where we've got so many AEW talents on one show, it's just incredible. So I'm really, really looking forward to the weekend, and I just can't wait to see what it holds.
Oh, it's going to be an absolute stunner. And of course, folks, don't worry. I'll include a link to Pro Wrestling Eve's YouTube channel down below. So you have no excuses. It's down there. Use your eyes, click the little button, and you'll be taken right there. All right. So you can't have any excuses now. All right. You've been told. Obviously, somebody we've mentioned earlier who's been helping a lot with Eve is obviously Will Ospreay. Ospreay's been quite a big fixture behind the scenes with Eve. You see it on his social media. He's promoting a lot of the shows, showing how much pride he takes in developing the shows and getting all the girls feedback and insight. And he's quite a recent addition to the vaccine scene as well. So what's it been like to have Ospreay working around Eve, and how do you feel his impact has been for the company?
It's been amazing for the company. It has helped tremendously. And to have somebody of that caliber watching your matches, investing in you, giving you feedback, the way that Will Ospreay's mind works for wrestling, I genuinely believe he was absolutely, without a shadow of a doubt, made to be a wrestler. The way, some of the feedback he offers and the advice that he gives, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, it makes so much sense. Why did I not think of this? It's really, it's so, so valuable. And I'm just so happy that someone like Will is wanting to offer that advice and taking that valuable time out of his busy schedule to help all of us girls backstage and to help the promoter of Eve and to just help Eve become even bigger and even more of a platform is phenomenal. And I feel like ever since he joined, everything at Eve has just become an even more well-oiled machine. And the production value, when you watch it on that stream, it really is such high quality. And to think that that's live, it's amazing. And I just hope that we can continue to better Eve, even though I don't feel as though it can even get any better at this point. I just hope we can continue to raise through the ranks and, just be absolutely what it deserves.
Absolutely. And it's going to be an absolute stellar show. Eve versus the World. Obviously, it's on Saturday, August 23rd. Doors open at 5 p.m. First bell is 6 p.m. Very, very, very limited ticket, folks, over at Dice. Get your tickets if you can. If they're not, you missed out. You were not quick enough on the draw. They're gone, and people are going to have an exceptional show on that Saturday. And I think it's going to be an absolute one that everyone wants to see. And Nightshade, it's been a pleasure to have you back here for the third time here on the Soul Session. So we're going to have 2 more questions, and then we're going to wrap it up because...
Thank you so much. And please, anyone that is there on Saturday, please, I need to hear you screaming my name. I need the motivation. You guys actually don't understand how much of a fire it lights within me, because usually, Nightshade's a bit naughty, she's a bit bad, she doesn't really care about the crowd reaction or the rules, play by my own rules. But Eve is so special to me. It's so totally different. You get to experience the good by the book Nightshade, because I just can't do anything to lose this championship, and it means so much to me. But please, I want to hear you. I need to hear you. Help me get through this match. Help me make it the best atmosphere it could possibly be. So if you're there, I want to hear you. I want to see you. I want you to come and chat to me.
You've heard it there, folks. You've heard from the champ. So you better, get off your arse and get them lungs blaring. All right, get that done.
Please.
So, first of the last 2 questions. Obviously, you are the Eve champion, and I have no doubt you will walk away the Eve champion on Saturday. There's one. I have faith. I have absolute faith. All right, knocking on the mahogany right now. This is mahogany table, and if I'm damaging in that, shows I have faith in me. All right. But there is a women's wrestler out there in the world that loves collecting belts. She's collected belts all across the world. And a lot of people see it as a big challenge and a big stepping stone to face her. Would you ever feel comfortable and ready to put your championship on the line against the moneymaker Mercedes Moné?
Of course, I would love to have a match against Mercedes Moné, but she will not be adding this to her collection. No way, Jose, I'm not doing it. It's not happening. It's staying right here where it belongs. So, by all means, I'll be happy to wrestle her, but please, please, the Eve Championship will not become part of her accessories.
Well, she's definitely not getting a new addition to her cage match profile. It's going to be sticking at that length and no more. All right, there it is. So, final one, Nightshade, I want to ask is a bit of a personal one for myself. Is that obviously folks will know I'm taking hiatus after this episode. For don't know how long, but I will be taking a hiatus. So, I wanted to ask, how important do you see fans' platforms sharing your stuff? Whether it's something like myself doing an interview or somebody making, a post celebrating your achievements and just showing that true support for you, whether it's through like a little edited tribute video, sharing your stuff, news feeds covering you like Cultaholic or What Culture of the accolades you have done. How important is it to you, and do you think other wrestlers, seeing fans dedicate their time of support to you guys?
To me, it actually means everything. Like, it means more to me than you guys will ever know. And there is no thanks that I feel is appropriate for how much it actually means to us. It means everything to me when fans are so passionate and they tell me that they love my match, or they scream support. And it really genuinely helped me to keep going on this crazy journey. It genuinely gives me that motivation, and it honestly, it means more than words can actually describe. So thank you so much to anyone that's ever supported me and been very vocal about that. And I think actually it helps our careers more than people realize. Having a buzz around your name and having fans that will shout your name from the rooftops and recommend you to companies and tag you in tweets. So much of this world is now revolved around social media and your social media presence, that actually having a loyal fan base that will make edits, share pictures, share your posts, it actually does more for us than anyone realizes. And I am always so, so appreciative of that. And you might be surprised, you might tag a company and say, oh, I'd love to see, for example, Nightshade there, or, any of your favorite wrestlers that you'd want to appear there. And I think companies actually take much more notice than you might think. So please don't ever feel like you can't show support for your favorite wrestlers. We absolutely love to see it all, especially I do myself. I know I can't speak for others and their opinion, but I love it so much. So please continue supporting. That passion means so much, because this is our lives and this is what we love to do. And we, at the end of the day, we do it for you. We're doing this because we were a wrestling fan. We love and adore wrestling. We want to create and try to simulate just a little bit of that magic that we experience as fans. So it really means a lot to hear that is achieved.
I think anyone could have said it better than myself. Actually, that was very beautifully put. Very beautifully put, I think, to really capitalize what it means to you guys. And it's a great thing to see. And well, folks, that's it for now. I just want to say, everyone, thank you for tuning in for the Soul Sessions all these years. I will probably be back maybe in a wee bit, not too soon, but in the future. And obviously, Nightshade has been a great guest here. She was the season 2 finale. She came back, and now she's here. So I couldn't think of wrapping up with a better guest who has done great things, and to see her as the Eve champion is a great accolade in itself. So obviously, folks, if you want to see more of Nightshade and Eve, there will be links to their Instagram profiles down below, as well as the Eve YouTube channel to catch the show this Saturday at 6 p.m. first bell. And well, as I've always said, as a good Scotsman, finish up your pint and put your chair away. But I'm going to end this with a quote from one of my favorite movies, folks. In case I don't see you, good morning, good afternoon, and good night. Thank you, as always, for tuning in for another episode of the Soul Sessions. Thank you.
Now I'm out there here and gonna live like animals do. No more laws and no more rules.